Welcome to New Life Live with Stephen Arterburn. For 35 years, New Life has been transforming lives one at a time thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's today's host, Becky Brown.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm so glad that you decided to tune in today because you are going to learn something and you're going to be able to share something. If you want to give us a call at 1-800-229-3000, we are going to answer your calls with the greatest wisdom known to man. Well, I might be exaggerating a little bit, but, I feel pretty confident that we can get you pointed in the right direction. And by we, I mean Dr. Jill Hubbard, who will be joining us. She is a psychologist, author, and speaker, and Chris Williams, who's in the house, licensed marriage and family therapist, leadership guru, but also, and just an FYI, Chris is going to be stepping in more in the host seat over the next couple of months, and I'm so grateful for that. But Chris, I would love to know what is on your mind this morning.
Well, what's on my mind this morning, as you mentioned, leadership guru. Guru might be. I'm not sure.
Well,
I'm not sure how comfortable I wear that shirt, but the truth is that we're all leaders, and we're leading something in our life, and we have areas of influence or impact, and whether that be in the family, which quite honestly may be our most important role, and certainly our most constant role. But there's a secret leadership that is incredibly powerful that is oftentimes profoundly ignored to our own detriment. And that is the leadership of ourself, and really the leadership of our internal world. And truly, to know thyself is a real attribute, but also to lead thyself well and to lead our internal world. And it really starts for me with any form of leadership, especially of people, is really an act of intimacy or closeness. As a youth coach, coaching baseball or coaching or leading the people on my team, I've learned that I don't coach every person the same way. It is incredibly ineffectual. Mm-hmm. And that to coach or to lead people well is to know them well. And it's always amazing to me, speaking of myself, how little awareness I can have of myself and therefore miss what I need, miss how to lead myself, miss how to function well, or how I'm dysfunctioning or malfunctioning, and how to get that back on course. And that's why I love our work at New Life, is because part of it is and a huge part of it is in partnership with God. How do we grab hold of the leadership of the self so that we can be healthier people, we know ourselves well, and we can show up well to the world around us?
Chris, it's so easy for us to tell other people what they should do
Yes.
differently.
Yes.
And it's an effort for us to control them.
Yes.
And to control the situation. How do you deal with that fear that comes into leadership roles, whatever they may be?
Well, I would say this. There's a principle here, is the more I try to externally control the world around me, control my external world, there's a principle. It's an indication of the more out of control I am internally. Mm-hmm. And so there must be a mirror with humility and with help to turn inside. And that's where therapy and coaching can be really, really helpful. But there's this other aspect, and that is the gift of our faith. Mm-hmm. The gift of our faith is faith itself. Control is typically not in our favor. Connection is.
Right.
And when we trust in a goodness outside of ourselves, when we trust in the goodness of God and lean into it, even in difficulty and challenge, it can provide us such a strength to calm that internal world that we can see and be more clear and more helpful to the people around us and be more at peace with ourselves.
So good. So good. Yeah, we have to turn our vision from control to knowing that God is in control, even when we don't like it. We're going to be back after this break. 1-800-229-3000.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn from New Life Live, and Chris Williams and I are doing the Emotional Freedom Workshop. I don't know of anybody that wouldn't benefit from emotional freedom. We're all bound or stuck or struggling in some area. What are we going to do there, Chris?
Just really help people get clarity around the places where they're stuck in their life. They sort of circle the same mountain of disappointment over and over and over again. You're going to be able to see that mountain clearly and get to a new place of what we call emotional freedom, which is simply I can feel in the world, build a relationship to it, and know what to do with my experiences.
The New Life Emotional Freedom Online Intensive is Saturday, September 14th. Steve Arterburn, Chris Williams, and Dr. Jackie McHarris will present information on trauma, depression, codependency, and more. And small group leaders will help you process the information you learn. Register online at newlife.com or call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and use the discount code NLL to save $50. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
I'm Steve Arterburn with a New Life Moment. Don't you find telemarketers annoying? Wouldn't you like a surefire way to make a quick end to your next encounter without resorting to saying something rude? Well, it's really quite simple. Just tell them that you're satisfied. That's right. Tell them that you're very happy with what you have and aren't interested in whatever they're selling. It's the one response they're not prepared to hear. You know why? Because the basic assumption they work from is that you're unsatisfied and discontent with where you are in life. That's a fundamental assumption that's easily made in our materialistic, consumer-driven society. Benjamin Franklin once said that discontentment makes rich men poor, while contentment makes poor men rich. The Apostle Paul said this disposition of heart doesn't come naturally. It's something we must learn, and it's never too late to start. If you find it tough to be content, well, you're not alone. Visit me, Steve Arterburn, at newlife.com, and thanks for listening to this New Life Moment.
It always is amazing how those New Life moments will coincide with the teaching. And Chris, this is talking exactly about what you were just saying about the control thing. You know, when we aren't satisfied, we do seek control, or we are looking for the thing that we need. I'm always so grateful for Steve's wisdom.
And just to add on to that, a fruit of the Spirit is not the control of others.
Shoot, I wish.
You know, it's not controlling other people or other circumstances. A fruit of the Spirit with God's help is self-control. And as a person who has struggled with addictions and compulsions and that being a really, really weak spot in my life, that's something that requires me to have a greater dependency upon God, because self-control can baffle me. But with God and help and other people, it's actually one of the most freeing things that we can experience.
It sure is, and we can help you along that way. We're going to be taking calls for the next couple of hours, 1-800-229-3000, and we're going to start with Lisa, who's calling us from Parma, Ohio, and watches us, listens to us on the internet. Hi, Lisa. We're so glad you called. How can we help you today?
Hi. Well, more control questions. My son is getting married, and he and his fiancé are trying to control my dress choice.
Okay, say more about that.
So I was a single mom, and now I'm remarried. I'm a Christian. I have some certifications, and I say that to you today because he just called me 3 hours ago, yelling and screaming at me that my dress better not have any white in it. And it's not that I've ever done this before or tried to do it, but he said, he goes, you're a sinner, and you don't even read the Bible. And the reason he attacked me with those words is because I told him I would have definitely paid for your wedding had you and your fiancé not lived together.
So it's more than about the dress, Lisa.
Yeah, way more.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Jill, you want to start?
Wow, Lisa. Well, and isn't it interesting how people retaliate and the things that they do? So trying to control your dress, but it's interesting. He brought out, don't wear white because you're also a sinner. So they are feeling perhaps very attacked by your comments. And don't we all try to justify our positions? And this is where, and how old is your son, Lisa?
27.
27. Okay, so at 27, he is, really should be out of the nest and getting to make his own decisions. And that means even to choose to disagree with your values. And I know that that's so heartbreaking for so many, Christians. We raise our kids and we want them to embrace these values, and then they have to make their own way. But you have every right to say, this is my value. And I know some people feel like, okay, when you're still kind of under my umbrella as a parent, then I'm providing for you. Once you go outside of that, you're providing for you. And it sounds like that's kind of the theory you were following. But I would say to your son, I realize that my stance has been very, very hurtful to you. And I'm sorry that it came across in a way that perhaps you felt attacked. Can we talk about that? And to even kind of say, I don't really think this has anything to do with the dress, son.
Yes. I love that. Can I add something? They live in another state.
Okay.
And they just found out their pastor was, maybe molesting a young child.
Okay.
And so when I got that call, he was lambasting that pastor.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, you are a hypocrite. You are living in sin for the last 2 years.
Okay, but Lisa, and you can think that as a mom, probably not the moment to share that.
Okay.
Right?
Good
When
to know.
he's calling and he's clearly agitated and upset. Like, that's shocking news. And I remember the first time I heard a pastor falling from grace. It's shocking. And you need to just kind of spew out what you're feeling. And mom is usually a safe place. Not the time to hold up a mirror and say, well, look at your own behavior.
Okay, well, good to know, because it was a week ago when it happened, but today I reminded him, like, hey, do you know what you just called me 5 days about? You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
God forgives us. Jesus died on the cross for our sins. I have grieved my sins, grieved them, so I can walk in righteousness alongside God.
Well, so Lisa, let's hear from Chris. Chris, what would you say to redirect their control issues, as Lisa called it out?
Well, yeah, I first, and I don't mean to say this like tongue in cheek, but very honestly, welcome to the condition of humanity where we're all hypocrites.
Yeah.
Amen.
Where we all are seeking to live out a particular way as Christians. And we all are dealing and living with the plagues of sin, and ours are unique. And I'm not saying that they're equal. I'm just saying that they're unique. Even though, throughout human history and the world, they're common as well. And when we use sin against each other as a form of shame, including ourselves, it breaks relationship. It doesn't build it. There was, I think, a mistake that you made, Lisa, that I don't think was intentional. I just think it was a little bit misguided.
Okay.
And there's nuance here, so I want to try to have wisdom. Is that financial incentive for behavioral change is usually a bad idea. And only because it's ineffectual, it doesn't work. So
can I ask you a question about that?
For sure.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, because I respect you guys, I respect what you're saying.
Yeah.
So I don't want to let God think that I am condoning and investing in them ignoring His word.
Okay, so Lisa, Lisa, let me ask you a question back. Do you believe that God knows your heart?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
But then if I know God's word and He knows my heart, then He would know that paying for that would just show them, go ahead and sin. Mom's going to pay for it.
Oh, no.
I believe. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
No. I just think that and this is where kind of like the details matter, the nuance matters. Because I really do respect the fact that you're like, listen, I am not going to fund something I don't agree with. That makes perfect
Like
sense.
if you were paying
Yeah.
for his apartment.
Yeah.
You might not do that
Yes,
if you were
okay.
living together.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and that's
Okay,
where I'm like,
makes sense.
paying for them to actually get married or financially contributing, whatever that may be. I'm thinking, okay, God knows your heart. God knows that you don't condone them living together before they're married. You
Right.
know, and
Right.
that pre-agreed upon, but it comes like the heart issue is that a matter of your son saying, hey, this is retribution for us living together, whatever the case may be. I just think in this, where things get lost in the arrangement, in the financial arrangement, is the relational connection that you want to maintain, that Jill was referring to, of like, let's have a discussion about this. Because now we're in a quid pro quo. Well, if you're not going to pay for a wedding, then we're going to tell you you can't wear this particular dress. And so now we're just going to throw shame at each other. Right?
Well,
Well,
and
they
you
were not engaged. They weren't engaged when they moved in, and they weren't engaged for anher year after they moved
Sure.
in.
Yeah.
Lisa?
Yeah.
Sure, but don't you
okay, good.
want them
Okay.
to get married?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's what you're supporting, that they're coming out
Yes.
of sin. So are they going
Yes.
to be held hostage by you forever because they live together? Like, okay, when they're pregnant, you're not going to pay for, anything for the baby shower because they live together. Like,
No, I believe that once the sin has been rectified in the eyes of God, then all bets are off. They're not
Okay.
living in. That's a daily sin they're going to sleep to and waking up to. People in their neighborhood, little kids, are watching them go in and out of their houses. I mean, this is huge for me.
Well,
Society
that was
has
the
condoned this
Lisa.
behavior.
Lisa, that was the key word. This is huge for me.
yeah.
Your sorrow, your grief over this is what's driving the panic that you're experiencing and you're expressing.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting because you started with the dress, and it's not about the dress. It's so much bigger than that. And I think, Chris.
Well, the phone call today.
Well-
the phone call today was him attacking me that I haven't sent him a picture yet, and I said, because I don't have it yet. I've just started looking.
Okay,
he
but,
called me
but there's
saying-
hostility
Yeah,
there, right?
Well, and that's
Well,
why I'm talking
I'm-
about that. You guys, why don't you speak to that defensiveness that occurs when these kind of dynamics come into relationships?
Well, and Lisa, I just have a question. What are you afraid of here? The fear is really, really there. And if you can touch on the fear, I think it'll be a guide for you.
When God says, do not harm these little children, for you should put a stone wrapped around your foot and basically drown yourself. The harm that this
Correct.
relationship.
Bring it back to
Has-
but Lisa, here's the thing that goes
God's
way,
word.
but listen, Lisa, this is what Chris was talking about even in the opening of the show. You are correct in what you're saying, but we're talking about that internal disruption that's occurring for you. And so while
It is that.
Yeah.
It is that. I mean, honestly, that is it at the root, is that I feel badly for all the people who have witnessed this relationship and thinking
But wait,
it's okay.
wait, stop, Lisa. I'm talking about you. Don't take
I don't
your
believe
emotions.
it's okay.
Well, I understand that.
Okay. Well, my ex-husband and I, Griffin's father, unbeknownst to him because he wasn't born yet, we lived together and now we're divorced. And I can see where living together made him a bad leader because we didn't repent for living together. So thank you for honing in on that. That is my fear, is that this will be another divorce because people aren't following God's life plan and purpose for their life. They will know us by our fruit.
So Lisa, here's what I want you to be able to do. And I think this is
Okay.
really important, and it really comes from a place of just desire for you to find more, to the word would be emotional freedom, is to spend some more time on the impact of the divorce and how it impacted
Okay.
you. Because that is the one thing that you can control here. Because as we move into this, and this is a great mystery, I don't pretend to know the details of how God does this. I just know I need his help. And that is, myself included and the rest of the world behave differently than God designed it. And somehow God holds a righteousness on one hand and a grace on the other. And I don't know how we do it without that. But we have to enter into God's grace without sacrificing his design. And so in that, we want to do what Paul said, in as much as it possible, live at peace with others. And I think that includes ourselves.
Lisa, it's hard. This is a difficult thing. And we know that your heart is in the right place, but the fear is disrupting the way that you're connecting.
Well, and it's so hard to watch our kids repeat the patterns that we lived through, that we were trying to save them from. Prevent. And it does create a lot of panic and internal disruption.
I'm going to send Lisa a copy of Healing is a Choice. We'll be right back taking your calls after this.
I came kicking and screaming. The last 24 years have been filled with pain. I was violently molested and raped from the age of 6 to 13. It has changed everything in my life. This weekend for me has been life-altering. I have realized that God does love me, that this is my story, and that's okay for the first time in a long time.
This is Steve Arterburn, and this is the story of a new life. She came kicking and screaming and now has a changed life. You can be part of offering hope to others as you step out in faith by donating to New Life Ministry.
To make your tax-deductible gift, visit newlife.com and click Donate. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE or text NLM to 28950. That's NLM to 28950.
I was sort of vaguely familiar that the 12 steps had some origination in the Bible. I found Life Recovery, and one of the things I liked so much was that it had such a broad appeal. It wasn't limited to just alcohol or drugs, that it was addressing a wide range of problems.
At New Life, we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country. They take place online, in conference calls, and in person. And if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. We have startup materials, leaders' guides, CDs, Bibles, and more, all with discounts available for groups. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and ask for Terry Ward. The 12 Steps have long been a great help to people in recovery because much of the 12 Steps' power comes from the fact that they capture principles clearly revealed in the Bible.
The 12 steps is really a pattern for all of us as Christians.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. You are listening to New Life Live with Dr. Jill Hubbard and Chris Williams. We're answering your calls at 1-800-229-3000. I just want to remind you that on Life Recovery Today TV, we have a program that we're going to address how addictions are really failed solutions to dealing with the real problem. So if you've never really explored recovery, you can check it out. If you missed it this morning, you can check it out at liferecoverytoday.net. We're going to have our conference later this year, and it's called The Courage to Change on October 5th, and it's online, and you can learn all about the freedom that is awaiting you. Right now, we're going to go back to the calls, and we are going to talk with Cheryl, who's calling us from Orlando, Florida, watches us on YouTube. We're grateful for our YouTube family. Click like and subscribe, and it'll get the word out to more people. But right now, I want to talk to you, Cheryl. How are you, and how can we help you today?
Hi, thank you for taking my call. What Chris said in the beginning really resonated with me today, so God certainly had me listen to that for a reason. But I am a stepmom of two wonderful adult children, and I've been in their lives since they were in elementary school. I'm married to an awesome husband, and I'm also a caregiver for my parent, who is local. But I've lately been praying through a lot of anger. My stepson and his current wife had a horrible miscarriage with twins, and it was just a a horrible time for them. It's been recent, and I've just been so angry at the response from my parent and my siblings. Lately it's been festering, and I'm really trying to pray through it, but I have the feeling that because these kids are my stepkids and they're not my birth children, that my family, and when I say my family, I mean my husband and my stepkids, has just taken a back seat to a lot of things through the years. And I think this, with the recent loss, I'm just seeing a lot of things, and things are building up that have happened in the past. But, I love my siblings, I love my parent, and I just don't want this anger to get in the way of it. But it seems to be creeping in.
Okay. It sounds like a lot of pain. Cheryl, Chris, let's start with you.
Yeah, Cheryl, how has your family responded to the miscarriage?
Well, my mother, 2 weeks after it happened, I knew she hadn't reached out, even though my stepson and his wife are very good about, remembering her birthdays, things like that.
Yeah.
And I was so angry because I knew she hadn't, and I calmed down, and then I approached her and basically said, have you reached out to them? And she said, no. And I said, well, I was very calm, and I was so glad God gave me the strength to be calm to have that approach. And I just said, I felt like my husband has been great with you. I mean, we do care for her.
Yeah.
It just was so hurtful that there was no reaching out.
Yeah. So
anyway.
So Cheryl, let me, if you don't mind, let me jump in for, it's kind of for time's sake as well. But this makes sense. Your anger makes sense. This loss, and you see your children suffering. We can call them stepchildren, but they are your children. And it is so painful, beyond painful, to see our children suffer. And we want to do everything we can to alleviate that. But you're also, it sounds like, and I'm going to guess here, okay, that there is a godly sorrow that's happening, an awakening that's happening inside of you. It's like, oh, these kids have really kind of been without for a long time. There's things missing in their life. There's things that could have been done. And this is a natural part to do that. What I want to encourage you is that, going back to what I talked about at the beginning of the show here, is that it's not what can your mom do, what can the rest of your family do, or what can your children or your husband do. It's what can I do. But right there, it starts with you're also in deep grief. You're also trying. Your body is naturally trying to alleviate the pain. But I want to start with, it's your pain that I want it to start paying attention to and start getting what it needs. And so, Cheryl, what do you need?
I just want to, I want my heart to be in the right place towards the people that I love very much.
Yeah.
And I want to release those feelings of anger and bitterness, because I know that that's not pleasing to God, but I also know that He's hearing my prayers. He knows, and He's listening. So I know that.
Yeah.
But that anger, it creeps in sometimes.
Well, here's something I'm going to encourage you with, and challenge you with. I want your protest to get out. I want the anger to be expressed. But what I'm going to encourage you to do is do that in journal form. Write it out. Let it be sloppy. Let it be ugly. Give it to God, because God can take our protests. But what you're doing is you're releasing it to Him, but also asking for His great care and comfort and love for you in this situation.
That's right. Cheryl, hold on, because we're going to hear from Jill after this break. I always think of the saying that anger is sad's bodyguard. And
that's great.
As you're describing that, Chris, what do we need to do to release that anger so sad can be released? And then we can start that healing. We will be right back after this.
For most of my life, I've been dealing with an opiate addiction.
Why is opioid addiction quickly becoming one of our nation's biggest killers? Maybe it's because it isn't only those who are addicted who are in denial.
We did what I see so many parents do, is it can't be an addiction. There's something medically wrong.
It's impossible to solve a problem when you don't know what you're up against, and families will try to find any explanation except the one that will put them on the right path.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a family disease. It doesn't affect just the individual.
If someone you love is abusing painkillers, know what you're up against. It's time to admit it's addiction and seek treatment. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have partner treatment centers around the country. Call 1-800-639-5433 or visit us online at newlife.com.
We just made a decision. We will do whatever it takes.
1-800-NEW-LIFE. Daniel Grossman on coaching.
Coaches are really focused on the future and helping people to develop those skills and those strategies to help them move forward in their life. A coach really partners with you to focus on things like personal growth or health goals, spiritual growth, helping you develop in your career or possibly strengthening your relationships or maybe even breaking free from a negative pattern.
If you need a coach for life, your career, relationships, your health and fitness, leadership, and more, call New Life today and ask about the New Life Coaching Network. Our coaches have been screened and certified with the same intensive process we use for our network counselors.
Coaches use different techniques. Some like to use strategic questions and accountability, ultimately empowering you to take those next steps towards your goals.
Take control of your life and take action to achieve your goals. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and talk to us about getting a New Life coach today.
I really believe that everyone can use a coach in their corner.
1-800-NEW-LIFE. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. We are talking with Cheryl and got a heartbreak going on. Wants really good connections with her family and has just hit a block here. Jill, what would you say?
Well, Cheryl, and I just wanted to clarify, your stepchildren are your only children?
That's correct.
That's correct. Yeah. Okay. So you entered into this marriage with a man who had children and took on his kids. So what Chris said, these are your kids, is correct. And it sounds like you've been together a long time because the kids are now adults. Blended families are tricky. And I've grown up in blended families. And you know, as people kind of come in and out, it really takes a lot of time. And not everybody blends equally. Mm-hmm. And that can be a really hard thing. And I wonder if you think back, were your stepchildren always treated like kind of the, the add-ons, the stepkids? Did they blend well with the rest of your family? I mean, it sounds like there is a connection there. But, your family, and this is a hard thing because I think this really is about you wanting to feel held and supported by your family. Mm. Like, I didn't have my own kids, but I have these kids that I have taken on as my own. And I want my family to be 100% on board. And in this situation, you saw that maybe your family's only 90% on board or 75% on board. And I think that was really disheartening to you because, I need you to love them and embrace them as much as I do. And this is so important to me. And whatever your family's issues are, I think it's just you got to see a little reality that's so hurtful that they can only go so far with you. And so to see them in their own limitations, to be able to, yes, tell them what you need, but to also realize they might not be able to go there. And that's where we were talking a little bit about at the break about forgiveness. This is where then at a point you have to forgive them for their limitations. Right? We can let people know our desires and and discuss it and bring it all into relationship and bring it out in the open. Mom, this is what I've needed from you. I don't understand. Help me understand your side of things. How was it for you when I brought these non-biological kids into the family? How have you felt towards them versus your other grandkids? And are there things that maybe would have been good for us to talk about way back when? I've been operating on some assumptions here. But also to say, Mom, but you have to know that these kids are the same as if they were biological to me. And I am hurting deeply.
Cheryl, is that something that you feel like you can do?
I do. And I will say that, after discussing my hurt with my mother, she immediately apologized, and she was so devastated and she wrote me a nice letter. So I just think that, and a lot of this, I liken the blended family to the crock pot. It's taken years for me as the stepmom to establish a relationship with my kids, but we're in a good place now. And so I think you're so right that I have expectations about what I want, and maybe it's only possible to have so much. So I do appreciate that feedback.
And Cheryl, what you just expressed, what your mom showed you, is that there is a gift of humility in this family that is tremendous. It shows a trust in love, a trust in the connection that you have and the intentions that you have for each other. And again, the humility of the self takes a lot of trust as well. I mention that because what your children need right now in their grief is they don't need fancy words. They don't need a fancy gift or a dinner. Some of those things may be good expressions, but what they need is loving presence more than anything else.
That's good. Cheryl, we are going to continue to pray for your family. We're going to send you a copy of 7 Ways to Choose Healing from Steve. It's pretty simple advice, but sometimes we get distracted by the pain, and I think that will encourage you along the way. We're going to go back to the calls. We're going to take calls for another hour or so, 1-800-229-3000. And right now we're going to talk with Paul, who's calling us from Stuart, Florida, listens on Sirius XM. Hello, Paul. Thanks for calling. How can we help you today?
Okay, can you hear me all right?
We sure can.
Okay. No, not a little over 19 months ago, the Lord took my wife home. She left a lot of stuff, journals and stuff. But anyway, basically, I have no desire. The pastor of the church has called me one time and said, "How are you feeling?" I said, "I'm lonely." He said, "Have you found somebody else? Have you met somebody else?" And then even on Father's Day, preaching up there, he made a comment about, "Well, we got a bunch of widows in here. There's a lot to pick from." It's like he has not experienced this. He has no clue about how me and there's another fella has been married for 58 years. I was married for 53.
Wow.
And it's like, my goodness, there's nobody can take her place.
For sure.
But I need to be able to approach this pastor and say, "Pastor, you cannot minister to me in this area because you've not experienced this and you don't know how we feel." Me and Bill, this other guy, we feel the same. And it's like, when he said that on Father's Day, when he made that comment, me and Bill just looked at each other. It's like, you're kidding me.
Yeah.
And I know he means well. He means well. And he's a great pastor. He preaches the word, it's like, if you lose your wife, Kim, if you were to lose her, you would understand how it feels and what I'm talking about.
Well, and I'm glad you have Bill, Paul, because you guys can kind of commiserate. You're right. Your pastor hasn't been through this, but what I'm hearing in him, and I hear so often in people, is this anxiety about people who are alone.
Yeah.
And like the answer is coupling. And what you're saying so well is you just don't cut and paste people.
Yeah.
Right? It's not about just filling a slot. That you're in a time of grieving. And a lot of times, I mean, statistically, men do go out more quickly within a year to 2 years and fill the spot. And then 5 years into that marriage, they're grieving the loss of the previous. So I'm glad that you're taking the time to grieve and to say, no, this is, 53 years.
Yeah.
You just don't turn the page on that, nor do you want to be able to remember well and to grieve and to internalize all those parts of her. I love that you have some of her writings. And to...
Unbelievable.
Right? At the same time, to realize, okay, now you have to do this journey without her physical presence. And what is that going to look like for you? It may mean that you and Bill start a support group. And you guys, give understanding, and you draw people close to you that can sit in that kind of pain, where we talk, we remember, we grieve, we're sad, we remember the funny things, and we take the time we need to process through this incredible loss.
Right.
Yeah, and and I think there's a lot of wisdom here, Paul. Is that we give authority to a lot of people. We can give authority to people who host radio shows, and so, and really, this is why the importance of wisdom is sometimes maybe those who we give authority to do not have the right answer for what we need in the moment. And that you're seeking it from other areas. Because I would say this, your grief does not need romance. It will not help it. It will medicate it. It will feel good. It will medicate, but it will not help it. And what Jill was referring to is, I can only just echo, is that relationship with Bill. Like, where do we feel the loneliness? With friendship. And then...
Yeah, I don't even mind having a friend that's a lady that I can, I can talk to, but I don't want it to go to a relationship.
For sure. And Paul, I want to encourage you to start a grief group, especially if there are more widows and widowers in your community. I think that'd be a great...
Or is there grief share in your community
exactly.
that's already established that you and Bill could join or bring other people to?
You know what, Paul? We're going to send you a copy of the Grief Life Recovery Workbook, which I think will be a great topical discussion, but maybe you invite the pastor for coffee a couple of times with you and Bill and just, express to him your concern, but also your side of the street. We'll be right back after this.
We all face days where life throws us a curveball and our routines or plans get disrupted. Things we wanted to do are forced to take a backseat to the unexpected demands of the day. If you normally listen to New Life Live on a radio station, well, you might not be able to that day. And on these hectic days when you're feeling stressed or frazzled, hearing the sound of counsel given on New Life Live is just what you need to navigate the unexpected things of life.
Every time I'm troubled or I have a problem, I'll cut on New Life, and there's always something that is said that is helpful to me.
By listening, I have learned more than I can ever express about how God wants me to live.
Download the New Life app for the easiest way to listen wherever you are and at a time that's convenient for you. Or watch the show on our YouTube channel. You can even subscribe to our podcast from your favorite podcast provider. You never have to miss a day of New Life. Wherever you are, we are. Club New Life changes lives.
You guys came along into my life in 2022. That was a really, really difficult year of my life.
You can help New Life Ministries provide Christ-centered hope and counseling resources to thousands of people by joining Club New Life today.
I began to really process a lot of things that I've needed to for a long time, and y'all were a very big part of that.
When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, you'll make a difference in the lives of individuals and families with godly counsel and connection to help.
I came out of it having never experienced anything like that, and y'all were there.
Join today and help continue the message of hope to a troubled world.
I knew I had to keep going, and I joined Club New Life, and y'all have been the resource that has now been a light for my wife and I.
Go to newlife.com/CNL, and together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places.
Keep doing what you do because it makes a difference.
newlife.com/CNL. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. You know, what Paul was talking about, and even the previous caller earlier today was talking about the challenges within the church, because we're humans, you know, whether it doesn't matter, like you said, Jill, you know, it's devastating when we experience disruption in our church leadership, and yet it's so important to have godly men and women serving in that capacity, yet they are humans. So it's all of that. But, you know, that's one of the things where New Life has stepped into wanting to support churches and the health of churches. And so we have a church initiative that we have begun to connect with churches all across the country. You know, we have life recovery groups that happen in churches all across the country. And so it was just a natural progression to equip the churches with everything from intense work for pastors themselves in our growth seekers connection, as well as how do we equip them with small group studies, or, you know, connecting them with a counselor or a coach, because we know that each person in that church has their own story and has their own challenges, just like we discovered today. And we want to equip people across the country with the truth and with grace and with godly counsel. I'm sure you guys think about that too, right?
Yeah, but I'm glad that Paul has a heart for his pastor, and I hope he does talk to him, because it's interesting that he said there's a lot of widows and widowers in that church, and you have a pastor that has a hard time with that.
Yeah.
So there is room for growth.
Well, Jill and I were having a conversation at the break, and, you know, her and her single situation, me and my married situation, I was saying, one of the things that would terrify me is for me to find myself in Jill's situation.
My life terrifies Chris.
Yes. Well, let's talk about that.
But let's get honest. I don't have the strength of Jill to be able to pull.
Remember, God gives you what you need when you need
to pull
it.
that off. But really, what it is that somebody else's situation creates anxiety for me that I want to solve.
That's
so
it.
I'm trying to solve my anxiety through giving Jill a solution. She needs to be with a man, because it would terrify me for me to be in her situation. And I don't know what I would do, right? Instead of
you would gather a lot of people around you.
Yes, instead of saying, Jill, if I'm ever in that situation, you're going to be at a coffee shop with me, guiding me through this situation and coaching me on.
I've done the research,
Chris, on how to do that. So
I love it. I love it. Well, you know, we love our churches because
absolutely,
we love people, and the church is God's people, and so we want to do everything that we can to encourage health. And you know, one of the ways we do that is through our many donors. Everybody from Club New Life who supports the ministry every month, they give us a gift, and we put it to use in the way that you hear us every day, as well as our counselor network in so many different ways. In our Club New Life family, we have a quarterly Zoom meeting where we get on Zoom together and we hear from Steve or another presenter, and we just share just about things that are new and upcoming, as well as just that connection with each other. It's good to know that there are people out there that believe in the power that God is exhibiting through New Life Ministries, and it makes a difference in everything that we do. I also, we have this thing where we talk about priority call for our Club New Lifers. We record Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern, but I know that many of you are listening at different times. And so you may have a question that you want to ask. And if you're part of Club New Life, you get to go to the first of the line, and everybody likes to be the first in the line. But we also have a way for you to submit your questions if you're not Club New Life, although we want you to be Club New Life. So go to newlife.com/radio, and you will find the way that you can connect with us. There's also a QR code on your screen right now if you're watching us on NRB or on YouTube, and it will give you the directions. And I want to submit one such question to Jill and Chris right now. And you ready for it? Because you probably aren't looking at it anywhere. All right, we're going to go to the question from Dolly. And her question is, what resources are there for our 15-year-old adopted granddaughter who threatened to kill her mother? Our family needs some resources dealing with our 15-year-old granddaughter who is in total rebellion. She returned 3 weeks ago from a facility where she stayed 8 months after threatening to kill her mother. She's been diagnosed with bipolar and multiple personality disorder, and she's a pathological liar. She makes up huge lies. She and her 2 siblings were adopted from a mother who was a prostitute and addicted to drugs, and they've been with their adopted parents since she was about 5. The biological mother died about a year ago, and this marriage ended in divorce a year ago, which is a huge traumatic event for them. These children are 15, 14, and 9, and the divorced parents, these children are Caucasian, but the divorced parents these children were African American, and the divorced parents are Caucasian. They now live with the mom, and the dad's not fully engaged. So there is a lot of trauma going on. But her main question is, how can I help the 15-year-old granddaughter? And I'd say all of them need help. What would you say to this grandmother?
Wow.
The first thing I would say as you're talking about pathological lying, right? So I'm not saying that the daughter isn't lying and living in deceit, but the daughter cannot live in reality because it is just too painful. One of these events would be trauma enough. And when we look at ACE scores, which is adverse childhood experiences, and the higher the ACE score, we see the higher propensity to problems later and struggles later in life. And so for Dolly, I would start with a frame in your own mind of, how do I correct bad behavior, to how do I support and love hurt children?
So true.
And
so true.
I'm not saying that we ignore the bad behavior, because there are some really, really dangerous things that need boundaries around it and probably need a container around it. But when we start with that different frame of how do I love and support, that means the boundaries and the containers around these behaviors come from a place of love and support, not just correction or punishment. And so in that, though, I would also just add this level of struggle, this level of ailment in these children oftentimes exceed our ability to help them, meaning as a family member. So understanding our own limitations, understanding our own powerlessness, and it's one of the great, again, I was talking about it earlier, with great mysteries of how do we sit in the suffering of those we love when we feel powerless to do anything about it.
So good. Jill?
I talked few shows ago about how you can't punish the pain out of someone.
Oh, that's really good.
Well, it wasn't mine. It was
but it is now.
Yeah. And that you're supposed to ask, why the pain?
Yeah.
Right? So that we're not just looking at the behaviors, but you also can't ignore, these are really extreme.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like this family didn't. The girl went for 8 months. So I'm a little unclear whether the threat happened before or after the 8 months.
It happened before. Happened before.
Okay, so did that help to contain, right? We keep adding, like you said, containers to help us because it is too much. And there's so many layers to all of this, right? There's a biochemical component that's going on.
Yep.
There's layers and layers of the trauma.
Of the relational trauma, the abandonment, the split family, the on and on and on and on.
And so often when people adopt, right, they're coming out of their own heartache of maybe not being able to have children, and they have unrealistic expectations that I'm just going to love these kids into health.
Well, it is an ongoing situation that needs ongoing help and support.
Yep.
That's right. That's right. And not from a punishment standpoint, from a love and care and attachment standpoint. We're so grateful for your question, Dolly. We'll be praying for you. Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, listeners.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again tomorrow for New Life Live.
Thanks for watching today. We love helping people. I hope you sense that. And we know that there's always hope if you find the right resource. Now, if something we've said to somebody else applies to you, that's fantastic. That's what we're hoping for. But also, if you want to join us directly, you can call 1-800-229-3000 between 1 and 3 Eastern Time, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Those are the best times to get through. And while you're here on YouTube, check out these other videos that we've done to help people see where they could grow or a different path to take. And if you do that, would you give us a thumbs up on the video, and please subscribe to this channel. There are many ways that we can help you outside of the radio program, and it's very hard for some to pick up a phone and dial 1-800-NEW-LIFE. But when you do, we put you in touch with somebody who cares about you, knows all the resources out there, and they're going to find the best for you. There is no reason to struggle alone. I hope to see you tomorrow. Hope you'll invite somebody else to come and join that maybe needs just a little bit of help along the way. I'll see you next time.